When talking about fictional discussions, size is often, for some reason, one of the most brought up factors. Whether it's actually valid to use in a argument to power scale a character or not is another separate discussion, but what if we take one of the biggest versions of Godzilla and we put it against one of the smallest characters who's known for hunting giant aliens, beasts, and kaijus alike? So, this is where Samus Aran from the Metroid franchise comes in, versus Godzilla, specifically his incarnation in the Godzilla Earth trilogy of films. So, who would win? Is this another bounty that Samus can take down? Or is this someone that she can't really outmatch in power? So, for some basic rules, Samus will be given all of her equipment from across the games and be in her prime, no, not Metroid prime, state, and Godzilla will also be in his prime state of power, and we will be considering all the games canon for Samus, or any subliminary canon material, so things like the manga, which are actually canon, are fine to use, but things like Smash Brothers are not okay to use. Same for Godzilla Earth, like the novels are canon for Godzilla Earth, and that's fine to use, but like any subliminal material, like mobile games, crossovers, or whatever, aren't really that valid to use. But hey, maybe if this is well, I think doing a crossover matchup where we compare the two scaling wise when we look at their crossovers could be pretty interesting. But besides the point, since Samus and Nintendo, honestly, on this channel is quite the new topic almost, except for that one time, but besides that, it's pretty much a new topic, let's go right into Samus' scaling, who would range at a baseline from the planetary to large star plus ranges to power. Not only do we know off of her killing Talon Metroids, a being capable of surviving the collision of the planet Talon IV, a planet with noticeably higher gravity than our own, getting this feat into the planetary ranges. This is consistent considering her power bombs can just outright bust planets when they want to. And something opponents that she fights can just outright tank, and her other weapons can harm these opponents that tank the planet-busting power bombs. However, her star ranges of power come from two main feats. One being her fight from Greed, a opponent in one of the canon Metroid mangas, who was making a black hole so large they were eventually going to consume the universe. However, they weren't at that point yet, in which Samus responds by making a white hole to cancel out Greed's black hole. This is consistent as after atomizing Dark Samus but not killing her, the dying Dark Samus, she stabilizes Light Ether, an entire planet. Both of these feats getting from the small to large star levels of power respectively, as Metroid planets are vastly larger than our planets in even our solar system, unironically, and are a lot more dense and have higher gravity, leading to higher calculation results for even feats like this. It's really not uncommon, especially even for normal planets. If you bust them hard enough, they can get above planetary terms of power. So considering we're talking about the context of these much larger, more dense, and with planets with higher gravity, it's not really that out of context to say in this context these feats are much higher. You can probably say the same thing about the power bomb feat, unironically. But, well, this is where all of her feats stop, as in she doesn't perform anything visibly more impressive or cause a bigger explosion. Something we know is that Samus is constantly growing as time progresses. Even at mid-points in fights, she will grow to the point previously that opponents that could previously just beat her ass now just do nothing to her, implying at the very least like a one-shot gap almost, as it goes from a no-sell to pretty much beating their ass, and a one-shot actually, leading to pretty much a 10 times gap at the least. And this will honestly go to the point where some statistics even say she grows 5 to 500 times stronger than her previous self. Once again, this is something that's shown happen consistently, in fact, at least once per game, actually getting around like 30 something times when you count all of the times it would have happened in the games, plus the manga and such. With these multipliers, considering she's already large star, plus it's already getting to the solar ranges, maybe even the multi-solar ranges of power. However, solar is making a lot more sense and is a lot more consistent, at least for where she would currently scale, as obviously in the past she would be only large star plus at the maximum, but currently she would be solar system at the least, if not maybe multi-solar. For speed, she would just flat out be MFTL plus, as she can travel across the galaxy with her boosters and her ship, which she pilots and can react to things in space, meaning her reaction and combat would scale to this too. For Samus's hacks, we obviously mentioned her power growth, which is incredibly useful in a fight like this, especially with an opponent who we'll get to, as well as her enhanced adaptability to fights. She has shields that can block and absorb damage, several forms of beams, missiles, bombs, all that good stuff. And she can even just deflect attacks, even things that are non-physical, such as like pure fire or pure electricity, or beings that phase through or other attacks. Her beams can damage. This is a form of durability negation, keep in mind. She can regenerate with her suit over time. She can absorb energy. She can scan opponents and objects to gain info or gain weaknesses, even if they are invisible or interdimensional. Samus' suit protects her from damage, as well as things such as poison and other harmful substances such as heat. She has several near absolute zero beams, another form of durability negation. She has suits and weapons that can allow her to negate and manipulate gravity. She can slow down time. She can BFR people to other dimensions. She has more forms of durability negation with the Nova Beam, a beam that pierces through matter itself, targeting the enemy's weak point to kill them instantly. Even normally invulnerable opponents or conventionally invulnerable opponents to Samus will fall to this beam. Now to Godzilla Earth. We know, at least for a baseline, he would also range in those planetary to large star ranges of power. We know that Bash was going to destroy the Gorath meteor, but unlike in the Final Wars movie where it's fake, this is actually a real one. But Godzilla ended up doing it when he charged up his power for 5 years. Obviously the 5-year beam feat doesn't scale to his AP, but Batra does, and the two have a brutal battle. This meteor was not only moving at relativistic speeds too, but was stated it was going to destroy the planet, flat out getting his feet into the dwarf star ranges of power. This is consistent, as it stated he has star-busting power flat out. This is actually consistent, in which we know that Mechagodzilla was built to outright deal with the star-busting Earth, and Earth just one-shots it, meaning he can one-shot not only his previous self, but can one-shot star-crushing characters, making him at least 10 times above his previous self, and 10 times above star level, arguably getting him to those large star ranges of power. Depending on how you take it, it isn't even inconsistent, as we just know his power will grow over time. We also know this is consistent, as we know Ghidorah, by simply existing, has these really large singularities and have the mass larger than a singularity. Godzilla simply resisting and then not only instantly dying is a dwarf star level feat. This isn't even including a Scarlet form, which is stronger than he ever was previously. Well, this is a baseline. For the atomic breath actually destroying these black holes when weakened, this would range from the solar tiers of power to the multi-solar tiers of power, depending on how you calculate the feat. This scales to his durability, as well as the shield is what powers his atomic breath, and since his cells generate his power. For speed, characters like Mothra, Batra, and Ghidorah in the novelization all react to his particle beam, a relativistic attack, and Godzilla reacts to all of them, giving him relativistic speed. This is really about it for speed. He's quite simple. For hacks, he has pretty good regeneration, to the point where he can regenerate organs. He grows over time and gets stronger, even at some points where he can one-shot his previous self, though it does take time. He can absorb radiation and energy. He obviously also has a shield. He has a Scarlet form, which just by existing has a several thousand degree heat that scorches anything around him and creates gravitational vibrations. And his atomic breath can negate regeneration so potent it can regenerate limbs, as well as obviously piercing through black holes of all things. He can resist void's gravity. He has EMPs, and his super vibration waves simply just break things on a molecular level and also cause gravitational vibration. So, who wins? Well, Godzilla Earth is likely flat out more powerful in terms of the AP and durability department, with Samus really only being the solar tiers at best, while Godzilla is multisolar, or even if Samus is multisolar, Godzilla is much higher into multisolar. Maybe higher, since we know if he kept growing after this point. But something we know is that Samus is much faster. Comparing relativistic to MFTL+, she would be running circles around him. Not like Godzilla could really land a hit. But what about hacks? While Godzilla's atomic breath could harm Samus, negating her regeneration, or his super scream could molecularly break down Samus, that's if it hit, which it probably won't, Samus, however, has everything she needs to take down Godzilla with her speed advantage, from near absolute zero beams to cool them off and is no counter to a better power growth, to scanners that detect Godzilla's weak points, in which her Nova Beam would target and bypass his durability, slashing through his molecules, or her attacks that attack you non-physically. She can BFR him, she can resist his gravity attacks and aura with her own gravity suit, and the shield just gets absorbed with her separate forms of energy absorption. Her radiation wouldn't work, considering her suit has been stated several times to protect her from those sort of things. Even poison's so potent they can corrupt you with a single touch. Why would radiation do the trick? She has easily the IQ and experience to put this off, and to avoid Earth long enough for these win cons to come into play. In fact, Samus has faced very similar odds before. Let's look at Kraid, a character she regularly fights, a character who is simply impervious to all of her attacks, and she quite literally can't damage, because Kraid is much more durable than him. If she manages to beat him every single time by exploiting his weakness, this is without things like her BFR and Nova Laser too, which we're giving her too. Godzilla is really just a stronger Kraid for her to take down at this point, leading to Samus, I think, would win. Especially when we compare the fact of, once again, the experience. Godzilla has never faced someone like Samus before, while for Samus, this is something completely on her plate. She's completely dealt with this kind of thing before. An opponent much larger, stronger, and more durable than her, but she's simply faster, smarter, has better hacks to exploit his weaknesses, and so on. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you guys like, subscribe, and share the video, and peace.